Hello, everybody. Welcome to the media show on the Pod TV network. I'm Mick Palomino. I'll be your host today. And of course, we're going to be discussing today the death of Hulk Hogan because it's all over the internet. And I think he did have a reach that was worldwide. We're about to find that out by talking to some people around the world and see how far his reach worked. And of course, we're going to talk about the media in general and some of the things we're doing here on the Pod TV network. And of course, around the world when it comes to that. So we're going to bring in Dr. Sharif, who heads up the World Talent Economic Forum up in Bangladesh. And now I'm very curious because Hulk Hogan actually grew up in the same area that I grew up in Tampa, Florida. He was actually in Robinson High School. I never met him, but I knew of him because he was probably about 10 miles away from where I live. But my question is this to you, Sharif. Had Hulk Hogan and the World Wrestling Federation, did that ever hit Bangladesh? See, I wouldn't have known.
Yes,
It did.
yes.
Okay.
He
So you guys
was
follow wrestling. Tell me about it.
so popular. I can remember when he attended the WWF and all of the things. I was very young, and I can share my experience, try to understand, like this 20 years before or 25 years before, Bangladesh is not like today's Bangladesh. Secondly, even I grow in a very small place. It's called Rajbari, a small country, a place in Bangladesh. Bangladesh is a small country. Rajbari is a very small place. So I can remember my grandmother. She was very disciplined. So she always like how many hours we have to read, how many hours we have to sleep, how many hours we have to watch television, and all of the things. She decided that time. So she never allowed us to observe this wrestling in our house because wrestling is something very exciting. But I can remember I passed my O level in year 2000. From that time we regularly because when we see his wrestling that time is 7 p.m. or something, so it's a evening in Bangladesh. So that time we go to our visit our friends. We have very special friends, and he that time always his family allow us to observe this wrestling, this Hulk Hogan X wrestling, WWF championship, and all of the things. Not only me, my whole friend. When this Hulk Hogan comes, my whole friend they just clap, they just clap. The champions come. He has very so he was so popular with his activities even in Bangladesh, in a very small countries, in a very small place, even in the grassroots level. You cannot imagine how he inspired these things. I told you, right? I attend in my debating because I watch a lot of American presidential debate. The same way, this Hulk Hogan actually changed whole media industries, whole thought process of the young people, the young generations, and even I that time I went to this gym, and regularly I try to be Hulk Hogan. It's not possible for me. He's very tall and very short, and many more things. But this is very interesting how American media, World Wrestling Federations, uh, and Hulk Hogan they inspired the whole world community. They inspired the whole world. That is the interesting things. So I want to see the pot TV they will uh, contribute in same way how we can inspire the whole young generations of Bangladesh or whole young generations in India or in like how WWF is excitement. It has a real entertainment, and they actually create a vision for the youth. Very interesting, very interesting. But I was sad when I saw this result. Hopefully, he definitely go to the heaven and rest in peace.
Yeah. Well, he was very big in the United States. And of course, the WWE used to be the WWF.
Yeah,
And then the thing is, that was a name that was owned by the World Wide. I think
World Wrestling Federation.
yeah, but it wasn't World Wrestling. It was the World Wildlife Federation. Wildlife.
Okay,
Okay.
Worldwide
So the
Federation.
Wildlife sued WWE, and they got the name WWF back. And so they had to change their name because WWF was World Wildlife Federation. So they changed to World WWE. And then there was a whole court this controversy dealing whether or not it was entertainment or it was real, because for years they tried to say it's real. And then they finally admitted, well, it's staged, sort of. And the reason I say sort of, yeah, there's storylines and staging, but as Hulk was trying to say, those throws are real. When somebody lands on the mat real hard, he landed on the mat real hard, and people do get hurt. It's a very physical sport, and that's what happened to Hulk Hogan. He had like 25 surgeries. Uh, Also had a neck surgery. I mean, it takes a demand on people's body to be thrown around like that. And some of the throws they do are very dangerous. I mean, what they call the pile driver, you don't want to try that. I don't know if they even show that anymore because it is very dangerous. You could end up breaking your neck and become paralyzed for life. So I have to give them credit that the amount of work that they put into that is extreme. In other words, it is, and also can be very entertaining. And then they started recruiting from all over the world. The great Kali actually comes from your neck of the woods in India, and he's 7'2". He's a big guy, and he was on the WWE stage for years. Because some of these people, Dr. Shree, they're huge. I mean, they're just big people. There's just nothing like it, and they do have an international reputation. I know in Japan, it's big. They had the Giant Silva, and Giant Silva is absolutely huge. It's another 7-footer. And then in Argentina, they had the biggest one, the Giant Gonzalez, who literally was 7'6" or 7'7". The guy was just big. Now, he's passed away because the other problem is they end up having heart conditions, some through steroid use, some because they're just so big, like Andre the Giant, who was from France. And that guy was huge too. I was actually at a hotel where Andre the Giant lived. He lived in, believe it or not, he lived in the Hyatt in Greenwich, Connecticut. He lived in a hotel because it was hard for him to find any place to live. And I was standing outside waiting for a cab next to Andre the Giant. I put my little hand out. His hand was like a baseball glove. The guy was absolutely huge. I never saw somebody as big as Andre the Giant. The guy was just big. I mean, it is what it is in the World Wrestling Federation. I didn't know if it reached Bangladesh, but it's good to know that it did.
Yeah.
And I notice your World Talent Economic Forum reaches the whole world because I've been watching it, and so has a lot of other people. But tell our viewers about the World Talent Economic Forum, what you guys are doing here.
Okay, actually, I'm pure from academia, right? My whole career and everything is academia. You actually inspired me. I'm not a media guy at all, like you. You are very professional. I'm not a good media guy, but I think that when I get chance to educate people through this program, so I choose this World Talent Economic Forum. And secondly, I think that Pod TV is the platform where I can reach more people. So this will be different things. And another things I find that many interesting topic from startup industry, from research industries, from AI industry, from healthcare industries, from around the world. Actually, this is very unknown for my audience. So if I can bring this kind of information, that will be helpful. Beside that, I believe two things: women empowerment as well as youth empowerment and the diplomacy. So the empowerment with higher educations, we can do these things, but how we can educate our young generations, that is important. So how we can collaborate with North America, how we can collaborate with Silicon Valley, how we can bring the interesting story from around the world. That is the very interesting things. I just today I just checked, and just 2 days ago, we just developed very interesting summit, and it's actually life changing. That Himalaya, from Himalaya there is a Ganga, and Ganga come to Bangladesh as a Padma, and then Padma go to Bay of Bengal. I think USA has great interest about Bay of Bengal. But I find this Padma and Ganga, this area, it has 100 million people. And right now, I have the opportunity to uplift, educate these 100 million people through this Ganga, through this Padma, through uh, this master plan of urban planning and all of the things. So, World Talent Economic Forum and Pod TV exposure, it's helped me a lot. It's actually, I can understand the Western mindset. I can understand the beauty of knowledge. I can understand how to negotiate with the different people and share your knowledge and views. Uh, Still I'm learning, still I'm growing, still I need lot more support from the global communities. I think this is an excellent opportunity through social media, through Pod TV. We can reach many peoples and we can change human life. And I always say this Pod TV in online, it's like an online Harvard, right? Or online MIT. So people can learn and they can grow. That is the beauty of World Talent Economic Forum and definitely Pod TV.
Mhm. And so what sort of guests do you usually bring in on World Talent Economic Forum? Who do you have on board?
I do focus on two areas, the global north and global south. And I do want to focus on the small things. I'm not a macro guy. I am in small things and small things I want to focus. So when I was in California and when I was in a different part of the world, I see that we can collaborate for different kind of research, different kind of startup things. So I only focus on the startup and this kind of projects and this kind of topic. People love so much. They love to learn and they love to young, and especially the young people.
Yeah,
So
yeah. When you get older, you don't learn very much. You learn at a very slow rate. So I have to bring around young people. Now, we do have a young person who just joined us, Jatovi, who actually ran the Gamers Den, which was a great show here on the network. But unfortunately, he's been busy with his real games and mainly dealing with his sports. But I'll ask Jatovi if he's familiar with the World Wrestling Federation. In other words, the Hulk Hogan death. Did that hit his area of the world in terms of sports?
So, I mean, yeah, people knew Hulk Hogan. Uh, some people ignored the bad of Hulk Hogan, especially the later in life what he did. So, I mean, I am sad at anyone who dies. And so, I mean, regardless of how bad they may be, I wish no death on anyone. But yeah, yes, there are people that were upset, sad, distraught, hurt. And there are also people that were celebrating because they felt they were, well, they were hurt by his actions. And not even talking about his actions with Trump, but his actions around racism and the stuff that he did there.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and also he had some other issues that were involved. Apparently, he had some issues with his own family, but
Yeah.
didn't
That was
have
where,
Ric
that was
Flair.
where the main racism piece came into play.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because from saying that or talking about how his daughter was dating an N-word, spray painting the N-word on the outside of I forgot what the trailer. Yeah, he just did some really bad and extremely racist things, and that's what caused a lot of people, especially in the African American community, to kind of, hey, we don't care about him anymore.
Okay. Yeah. Well, what about use of steroids and alcohol? What are your thoughts on that? In other words, was that a contributing factor to his demise? Apparently, he was he was actually advertising alcohol right up to the time he passed away, when his doctors were saying you shouldn't be drinking at your age. And then apparently also he had steroids. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, the alcohol and steroids. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, those are contributing factors, detrimental to health, and so on and so forth. But that's nothing to condemn an individual with. Some people deal with. I mean, you got
Yeah.
the medical condition dealing with alcoholism and the addictions and stuff like that. You have the other where people choose but that's just people's life choices. That you cannot condemn someone or berate somebody for. Same thing with the steroids issue. He chose to do that. I mean, there are other sports figures and individuals that have done that. So you can't. That's nothing. That's really nothing of importance. The important is what he said, his actions, the things he did, and that's what people were either happy with and ignored part of his life, or they started happy and then once they actually got the realities of the things that he said and the things that he's done, that took away all this joy of wrestling. It was like, hey, this is who this dude is, and I can't champion this guy because of what he said or what he's doing.
Right. Okay. So what is going on with your neck of the world in sports? In other words, how can we bring more sports? We have one show, I think it's Walter's Football. It's really about fantasy football, but we don't have much sports on the Pod TV network, mainly because the cost of bringing sports on a network is pretty expensive. So because they want so much money just to film sports. What are your thoughts on that, Jacoby? Is it ever possible that we can bring sports onto the Pod TV network?
Yeah. I mean, that's just a matter of just getting a reporter, getting a podcast, whatever. In terms of getting highlights from particular things, I think that you can utilize what you've taken personally, because then it becomes, then it's not copywritten to the actual entity. But outside of that, yeah, I think you can't really like live stream a game. That would be almost impossible because that's where you run into a lot of litigation. But in terms of doing a sports podcast, yeah, I mean, I'm in the midst of working on one right now, trying to put all the pieces together. But yeah, there's a lot of ways to do sports.
Okay, yeah, because sports are very popular, and one thing I did notice, especially at the collegiate level, since my grandson's actually going to NC State, but he was all state in volleyball, believe it or not. Okay, so he's like 6'4" and he can spike the ball. He's really good. But here's the problem: there's no money in NC State's volleyball program. It's like zero funded. They call it what they call club level. Guess where all the money in NC State goes? You get two guesses, two places. It goes to football and basketball. And then they do Title IX. So the thing is women's volleyball. So what are your thoughts about the way the finances are when it comes to sports in colleges? In other words, it gears toward one or two sports and then Title IX sports, and everybody else gets aced out. What are your thoughts on that? So it seems to me it's inequitable distribution.
I mean, for me, it's tough. I mean, so football is the number one sport, or college football is the number one college sport. That's the big elephant in the room. I mean, if you have a college football team, you're going to make money. But if you're not within the, particular conferences, you're not going to make any money, and you're always trying to bounce around. That's why we're lately getting a lot of dissolving of some conferences because of that football money, because it brings in a ton. Then you got basketball, then you got baseball, because there are some schools that are dominant in baseball because that's all they have. But yeah, I mean, some sports, golf is not going to get funded as well as other sports. It's going to be one of those small that gets basically a voucher. Your tennis programs, your racquetball, swimming. So you get a lot of sports that just aren't seen that many colleges offer. But they don't have the money like your football. They don't have the fan draw like the basketball. I mean, maybe at some point it'll trickle to a point where it's able to promote itself more, but it's just, yeah. I mean, how much do you put into what people would consider a niche sport or a niche sport? How much money are you going to put into that if you're not going to draw a crowd? Because it does, I hate to say it, but it is a business. That's where the money is. And you want to make money. If you're not going to have a big return on investment, Why are you going to put your money there?
Mhm.
That's the sad part.
Right. So college sports today is just really a business.
Uh, I have some views about sports. Actually, let's say what you are discussing about uh, these different kind of sports like soccer, like cricket, like basketballs, and all of the things. But there are many traditional games around the world. Let's say we are discussing about wrestling. So sumo wrestling in Japan, kabaddi in India or in Bangladesh, sipak,
Mhm.
takraw. It's in South Asia. Brazil has coepira and different kind of traditional games actually we have. Polo, it's actually Iran origins things. Uh, Tahtir, it's from Egypt. There are different kind of traditional games we have, but somehow because of the organizers or local people, they do not market it properly, sponsor
Mhm.
it properly, fund it properly, so all of the traditional game gone. So this is very interesting, like you are discussing about sports, because sports is the core thing of the youth community, right? And now many youth actually do not involve enough sports. Even in Bangladesh, I am observing. So if we can identify some traditional sports, and if we can like penetrate this kind of sports and identify some shows and expert people, maybe it will be interesting show in terms of my point of views,
Mhm.
because I see that traditional things. Let's say what I'm talking about, sumo wrestling, right? People has interest, but somehow because a lack of like market and budget and branding, it lost. So as Pop TV try to bring all of the interesting thing, because Pop TV discuss a lot about the world, not only about USA, right?
Right.
You try to engage with Asia, try to engage with Bangladesh, try to engage with China, Africa, around the world. So a good show, I always believe how we can help the communities and engage, give them opportunity
Mhm.
to engage. So sports is very interesting thing if we can bring some traditional things, and definitely there's crickets and this football and this basketball. Maybe it can be a combined way of doing things. So
That sounds
what
interesting. You
my
mentioned
my 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 world talent actually doing, it's a global north. You have lot of fun, lot of research, lot of innovations, lot of startup, right? Silicon Valleys and all of the big things in USA or and Europe. So I am trying to bring these things, and definitely if you see Bangladesh, if you see India, if you see Africa, global south, the south corridor, what you call the not rich people, they have their own business, right? The social entrepreneurship business. Africa has agricultural business, Bangladesh has. So we publish a lot of research paper with the collaborations of, let's say right now, 82 university working with me. We are publishing paper, and it's a combination of global north and global south. So people love it so much. When wherever people touch, they say, "Hey, this is my story. This show, this research, this case study, this conference, or this class is my story." So maybe this can be a unique
Yeah.
opportunity for us.
Well, Jacoby did come up with something interesting because it's very hard to film a sports event on a talk show. In other words, you need a lot of cameras, a lot of moving parts. But what it's not hard to do is do a podcast, a sports podcast. We could run sports podcasts on Pod TV. In other words, and there's some good podcasters out there. Also, I just want to bring this to Mark's attention. I actually met with Film Hub last week about acquiring and also distributing some of our shows on that network. So you may want to check out Film
yeah, I'm
Hub.
familiar with Film Hub because they
You're
actually the
familiar
Film
with that?
Hub. Yeah, I'm familiar with them. They're similar to Film Freeway and a number of other sources that have a lot of films. Because as you know, and as Jacoby knows, I am actually a screener of film festivals, several film festivals, and I know that Film Hub I've heard of, and Film Freeway is another one that uses a lot of ways to uh, for the festivals to kind of like source their films. Just like I was looking to some musicians recently because there are different platforms that musicians use as well in order to get track. You mentioned sumo wrestling earlier, and there was a gentleman, I think that Toby may have known him as well, that he passed away, but he was a gentleman that was into sumo wrestling here. He was also one of the world's strongest men, and that was Mr. Eric Perry, or as some folks used to call him, Mellow Yellow. But he was definitely a sumo wrestler that was from my hometown of Warrenton and everything. But he was a football player. I think he played for UNC, and he also played for, of course, our high school back in the 70s and everything like that. But he also was a strongman competitor, but he also was a sumo wrestler. So he traveled to Japan, traveled to other places, and wore the traditional outfit and was a champion in some of the sumo wrestling matches. And even locally, there was a group of folks that hopefully we can maybe get them on the show and maybe even have some of their matches aired. But they were doing some boxing matches because there are some local boxing folks that are doing boxing gyms and have their own boxing matches, because at the same time that we did the go-go show, which is back around Mother's Day and everything, they were actually the week before did about, I think it was 10 matches that they had and everything. So there's a traditional boxing, just like there is traditional wrestling, and just like there is the more televised wrestling as well. But I'm talking about, this was the old-fashioned kind of boxing that they were doing and everything like that. And to your point, there is, because I think I had reached out to them, but there's a very popular talk show, and maybe we can acquire them or see about having them aired on our network. But it's called Field of 64, because you know that we're going to end shortly the baseball season, and after baseball season it'll be football season, and then right after football season and during football season there will be the start of college basketball. College basketball, I think, usually starts like around October or something.
It'll start October, yeah,
at these times and everything, and then goes until March Madness and everything like that, which usually ends actually in the first weekend in April and everything. But Field of 64 is a group of folks that include ex-college players and some that went on to the pros, and they sit there and discuss the college landscape in terms of college basketball for probably about an hour or so. I've seen everybody from Childress, who used to be one of our Randolph Childress, used to be on one of our teams. I think it was Wake Forest. I think it was Wake Forest he played for and everything. And then they've had some of the players, including Tyler Hansborough, that was from UNC, and even some of my Marquette players and everything. And they would just get up there and discuss what the games were and who was doing good and what they expect would get picked for the Field of 64 based on what was happening that particular week. But it is a weekly show, such a similar way that we have Walter Football that talks football and everything along those lines. So there are a couple of sports programs that exist on Pod TV, but we can definitely do a better job of creating some other ones by reaching out to some of these people that have sports shows, because we also have the Pull Up Podcast, and Coach Tony is a coach of young people and everything like that, and he's had some WNBA players, and he's had some other coaches, including some that have played in the NBA, and others on his show, which they air, I think is on Monday night, but then we re-air it later, because there are a couple of shows here on the network that are aired on one day, and then we re-air them on a later date. And even with the show that we do with Pam Purifoy, we just remixing politics and culture with Pam, because she actually airs that on Sunday, but it'll re-air her again tonight and everything, because we re-air it on Monday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we could entertain some more sports shows. Also, I checked out the online dinner party the other day. I don't know if it was a rerun or not, Mark, but you had two medical doctors on the show. What's the story with all? How do you get your guests? You get some really good guests there.
No, I talked. That's why I was late here. I was actually doing a pre-interview with one of the guests who is actually had not one, but I think she's had two near-death experiences. So Nancy Freca will be on not this coming Wednesday, but the following Wednesday. But yes, I have folks that I reach. There are certain podcast sources, such as Podcast Guests. That's the name of the source, and they send us a list of different guests, and I will then send them an email once I find out who they are and approach them. And all along those lines, there's also the RTIR newsletter and everything, and they give you like a little short paragraph on folks and everything, and then I will reach out to them via correspondence. And then, of course, there are people in my own inner network and everything like that, because I think it was 2 weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, I had on Kiki Woods, who is a yoga instructor. So she was one of the solo times that I had just one guest and everything. But she was on this last week and everything. But she is a yoga practitioner and has been doing that for a number of years and has some great philosophical thoughts and all along those lines. But yeah, some of them are folks that I personally know, and some of them are folks that I don't know from Adam and or Eve, but I learn about them and everything. And like I said, in some cases they want to do a pre-conversation. So I did do a pre-conversation with Miss Frecka, and she will be on the 6th of August. And like I said, she's not the first one I've had that's had these near-death experiences. I've had one that even talked about going up to heaven and seeing a heaven that was, and Dr. Sharif will find this interesting, that particular person, when they explained their heaven that they went up to, it was a heaven that was all people were up there, including of different religions. Because sometimes certain religions will say it's my way or the highway, but they described a heaven that had just like our own society. It had like Muslims up there, it had Christians up there, it had folks of various faiths up there and everything, but they were in different sections, but they were still there in the heaven's gates and all along those lines. So it was interesting to hear that particular philosophy. And I think that was maybe 2 years ago, a year and a half, 2 years ago. I know it was a while back and everything, but I remember describing this heaven that was not the traditional one that you hear about in some churches and some mosques.
Yeah. Dr. Sharif, how do you get your guests? You have some really good guests on the World Talent Economic Forum. How do you get your guests on those shows?
Actually, from my social media and from my network, I always invite them. Uh, actually, long times, last 10, 12 years, I attend. When I was a student, I always attended the debating championships, world's debating championships. So I have good communications and I have very good network. When I joined in the corporations, when I started my careers, I always focus on developing a high network because this is valuable for me. And interestingly, I always like a curious people, so I want to learn from different cultures. So if I'm honestly speaking, I have a lot of friends from debating communities in Bangladesh. So they attend in the World Debating Championship, but they do not love to engage with different cultural people. They just discuss and everything. Uh, but I laugh. Like I can remember, I saw your Facebook post that you are trying to developing something IBM TV. I say, hey Nick, I can join. You said, come and join. That is the starting. So this is very interesting, right? It's very amazing. The 5 years time we expand and we build up something. So that is the way of doing these things. And initially, I get a lot of rejections. People say, I will not join, I will not engage. No, 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 lot of rejections. They laugh at me. They say, hey, what you are doing, you cannot. And now everybody is interested to join these things. Even in, I can remember the last years when I visit California, Silicon Valley's Stanford University and San Jose State University. When I say my objective, I want to bring and uplift 100 million people. So I'm not a greedy for money. Even in every people, 100 million people, each and every people give me $1. So it's $100 million. So when I say this, yeah, I say this, yeah. So everybody laugh at me. Every single person in USA, the faculties, the people, they say, "Hey, you going mad? You bring 100 million people." And just 2 days ago, I make it. I made it.
Mhm.
100 million Bangladeshi peoples, politicians,
Right.
army, like government agencies, largest corporations, NGOs, local business organizations, 100 million people's media, everybody says we need world talent.
Mhm.
We need Pot TV. We need to grow together. This is the things we are looking for. So my father always says that if you want something from your heart, the whole world is ready to support you. So I want to support my people, but somehow it's happened. It's like a revolution, and you are the leader of this revolution, Mr. Nick, right? History gonna remember. Maybe we are doing something. Maybe once time people gonna organize the show like what we are doing for Hulk. So people gonna remember. I always say, well, you like my teacher, right? You like my professor, and in our culture we respect our parents, our teachers, and everything. Maybe you cannot understand what you are doing. Maybe after 10 years, people gonna think about you. Hey, it's an amazing story. So right now we are developing uh, this urban planning. It's in Bangladesh, it's in Dubai, it's in Australia, and it's your Texas Austin. So hopefully, these 100 million people can make a better impact with positive things. So
Yeah.
that is the beauty of Pod TV. That is the beauty of Talent Economy.
Yeah, you do have a big reach because of social media. In other words, since we distribute through Facebook, Facebook has a 2 billion person reach right now, which is pretty strong, and it
Yeah,
makes Mark Zuckerberg the second wealthiest person in the world because he reaches 2 billion people on Facebook. But then you also have LinkedIn. LinkedIn has, I think Microsoft bought them, but they have 500 million people on LinkedIn, and we distribute our shows through LinkedIn, so we have a reach of another 500 million. And then you have YouTube. We get killed on YouTube, but YouTube has a reach of about another billion people. So when you look at all the social media sites we distribute through, you're talking about multi-billion people, potential viewers on all these sites. It's just the name of the game. And
Yeah,
it allows you to distribute what's going on in Bangladesh, not just in Bangladesh here, but meeting the Honorable David F. Walker and explaining the concerns of your country to the former Controller General of the United States. So, I mean, it has a lot of application. Yeah,
yeah,
Mark.
yeah, lots of applications and everything like that. I just wanted, Nick, since you asked me about that, and I saw your title, and I unfortunately missed the beginning of the show and everything like that. So, when are we gonna get Randy Macho Man and Hulk Hogan on Pod TV? So I saw that you did have Hulk Hogan mentioned, and he is a world famous wrestler and everything. So when is Hulk Hogan going to be making an appearance and being interviewed by Nick Valveda and everything?
Well, Hulk Hogan passed away, and so did Randy Macho Man Savage.
Uh,
That's one of the problems
that's right,
with a lot of the wrestling community is they pass on. And,
right.
so some of the best wrestlers, I think a lot of it has to do with their size, their weight, their steroid, the alcohol, it's just a combination of factors. And it's a tough business. I mean, people, especially when you get over age 40, I'm sorry, somebody throws you on a mat, you don't bounce back as fast as you do when you're young. So a lot of them will continue to wrestle past age 40, and it hurts. I mean, that's just the name of it.
Yeah, it hurts, but you
They're
also
very entertaining people.
it's
Yes.
very entertaining. But you also mentioned, and I kind of alluded to it, that there was a friend of mine that did a couple of boxing matches, and that hurts as well. But there are people that are doing various things, and there's not just regular boxing, but there's also Krav Maga and these different martial arts forms, including
Yeah.
karate and including the Ultimate Fighters and everything like that. I actually saw one of the other networks that I was looking at my Roku TV and everything, and they were talking about like bare fist knuckle fighting, and they were airing that on one of our competitor networks, and I'm going like that is something that is still going on, and that hurts no matter what people think about those fists and everything like that.
Oh
But
yeah.
that can have some serious health implications. Also, this whole notion of bare fist. Hey, Dr. Sharif, you mentioned earlier that I think you said that in Bangladesh, which actually surprised me. Was it you talking about water polo or regular polo? Because there's the horse polo and then there's water polo. So which one of those is the one that is popular in Bangladesh and everything? Because I know cricket's popular, but you mentioned one of the polos, and I'm going like, which polo is he talking about? Is it the water one or the ones with the horses?
horses,
The horse
horses one.
polo. Okay.
Tomorrow I will visit the president of golf club. I think they have polos and this kind of arrangement. He was lieutenant general and army chief. Naturally, the army chief they took the position in Bangladesh, and they organized this kind of polos, golf, and all of the things. So yeah, but it's not so popular actually. South Asia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, they're more like cricket.
Right.
They love crickets. They die on crickets. Cricketers are very powerful. They become politicians, and yeah,
Yeah,
Very
well,
interesting.
well, maybe we can start a polo show because polo is definitely something that doesn't get a lot of coverage
The
and everything.
problem with polo, because I went to the polo club here in Barcelona, it is hard to film because the polo field is so big, Mark.
Mhm.
You need a lot of cameras to cover polo. It's just
It'd be almost like covering it would be almost like covering a golf match, and I know that I've done
right.
it.
It's like covering a golf match. The problem with polo and golf is they also eat up a lot of real estate. Something that a lot of countries, including Bangladesh, doesn't have a lot of because they have so many people. It just, in Barcelona, if you wanted to go to a golf club, you have to go way out because it's too jammed with people here to
Well,
have a golf.
speaking of golf clubs and way out there, I do have a question for Dr. Sharif because there are several sad news, but one of the most sad news that took place was that anybody that remembers the very popular show, and he had his own issues and still dealing with some legal issues, the Cosby Show. But Theo Huxtable passed away. That was Malcolm Jamal Warner. I actually knew that he did some poetry events at the international, now called the International Black Theater Festival, was the National Black Theater Festival, and I think he created the Midnight Poetry Jam along with Helena Lewis and some other people, and all in that spaces. But he passed away because of a riptide, and I do know that Bangladesh is near the water. So, what is your thoughts around this whole notion of riptides and how dangerous are riptides even in Bangladesh? Because apparently, I want to say he might have been trying to rescue his daughter, because that was his daughter that he was with and everything. I think she might still be in critical condition, the last I heard and everything. But definitely, there was a lot going on in that space, and people are still speculating as to the cause of his passing away. But he was a well-known person, both for the Residents, which was a doctor's show that I think Angela Bassett was also part of, and all along those lines. But also more known for being the role of Theo Huxtable on the Cosby Show. But he just recently passed away at a relatively young age in his early 50s.
Mhm, mhm. So you are talking about some disease and all of the things in
The
Africa.
riptides, like riptides in the
Riptides.
ocean.
Do you guys have riptides over in Bangladesh off the?
I do not see any news for this particular issues, but regularly I use my protections and all of the things. When I go outside, I use mask and everything. Uh, but one thing I try to share with you, like when COVID-19 come, you see is that I saw. I'm very sorry about that. Many people in USA they died. In the same way, uh, Bangladesh died. But compared to USA or Europe, Bangladeshi people, I believe they have uh, more sustainability because they have to face a lot of challenge and everything, and their health cares maybe not good, but somehow naturally they can protect from all of the disease and everything. But another things I am very much concerned about, we need to improve our health cares. Maybe many people died, we do not care. Just few days ago, Bangladesh faced a very bad things, especially in Milestone School. One of our aircraft just collapsed in Milestone schools, and more than 30 people, students died. All of the young people, pilot died, teacher died, parent died, and more than 100 injuries. So uh, I want to say, definitely we are small and we do not have all of the economical support and infrastructures. But what we have, I think that we should distribute it and we should contribute it for our human resource protections, healthcare, education, and all of the things. Uh, yeah, that is my views. That is my views from my side.
We lost a lot of famous folks. I did not realize that the English jazz singer Cleo Lane had died, but she passed away at a very she lived a very long life. She was actually 97, so she passed away July 24th at her home in Wabington, England, according to her daughter Jackie Dankworth. And but like I said, the singer began her career by performing at London jazz clubs in the 50s, and she was one of the most celebrated jazz singers in England by the mid 60s, and debuted in the U.S. in 1972 after the height of the whole Beatle hysteria and all along those lines. So she won a Grammy in 1986 for her album Cleo at Carnegie, the 10th anniversary concert, and she was named Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire in 1997. And she is survived by her daughter, son Alex, 4 grandchildren, and 6 great grandchildren. And in 2019, unfortunately, her son Stuart had preceded her in death. But I do remember hearing her music, and she was an amazing artist. And another amazing artist, and this is one that you may know and everything, because he was a Grammy Award-winning jazz performer. Nick and everything was Chuck Mangione. Chuck Mangione passed away
Right.
on July 22nd at the age of 84. As a trumpeter and flugelhorn player, he gained acclaim for his work in the Jazz Brothers, which he formed with his older brother Gap, and as a member of Art Blakey's Jazz Messengers. He won his first Grammy for his 1976 album Bellevue and his second for the Children of Sanchez soundtrack. But it was his mega hit single "Feel So Good" that put him and thrust him into worldwide recognition. He also garnered attention for composing and performing "Give It All You Got," which was the theme song. We were talking about the Olympics for the 1980 Winter Olympics in Lake Placid. So definitely, they were recent years have seen new audiences introduced to Mangione by his gig as a guest character on King of the Hill, where he played himself as a Mega Lamart spokesperson across his 60-year career. He recorded over 30 albums and was nominated for 14 Grammy Awards. So definitely he had a rich history, including being used in soundtracks such as 1996 Fargo, 2009's Zombieland, and 2016's Doctor Strange. And then Ozzy Osbourne. I didn't realize that Ozzy had passed away. Ozzy passed away as well. He was 76, and of course, he had says just weeks before his death, Osbourne and his legendary rock band performed a farewell show to a hometown crowd of 40,000 people in January 2020. He revealed that in 2003 he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, saying at the time it's not a death sentence. Also known as the Prince of Darkness, Osbourne pioneered heavy metal with his screeching vocal performances and unpredictable onstage antics as a member of Sabbath in the late 60s and 70s. He also launched a successful solo career after splitting from the band and achieved notoriety when he shared the spotlight with family on his 2000 MTV reality series, The Osbournes. So in addition to being a two-time inductee to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, he won 3 Grammys as a solo artist and 2 as a member of Black Sabbath. His first win came for the best metal performance with vocals for I Don't Want to Change the World in 1994, followed by a win for best metal performance for a live rendition of Iron Man in 2000. So like I said, there's been a lot of folks that passed away in these recent weeks, including, like I said, Malcolm Jamal Warner, Robbie Pardio, and also Tom Troutman as well. So like I said, we've been losing a lot of greats, including Alan Bergman as well, who was a theme award-winning songwriter. So yeah, unfortunately, a lot of folks have been passing away, including one from your era, Connie Francis. Connie Francis passed away recently as well. So a lot of folks.
It's amazing though. Maybe we can every week we'll run the obituary page, Mark, because a lot of people pass away because the baby boomers are getting older, and as they get older, they get sick. And as my doctor told me, when you get older, things start breaking down, and that's just what happens. So yeah, there were a lot of famous people for whatever reason passed away this week. I don't.
This week in the last couple of weeks, including one in Asheville, North Carolina. They said Eileen Fulton was one of the first bad girls of daytime television. You know, we had one of the other bad girls that was on bad TV that was with Little House on the Prairie and everything. But Eileen Fulton died on July 14th in her hometown of Asheville, North Carolina, after a period of declining health. Born Margaret Elizabeth McClarty on September 13th, 1933, she began her rise to daytime stardom in 1960, where she was cast as Lisa Miller on the CBS soap opera As the World Turns. Though she was originally written to be a nice girl with a summer-long arc, Fulton delivered a performance that transformed Lisa into a mainstay villain of the soap, inspiring passionate responses from its fans. So she was known for being one of them bad girls. You got to watch out for them bad girls and everything like that. So she was having that role of being a bad girl on those soap operas, because that is something that people like to have in their life, even in their real life and everything like that. Those bad girls, but they can get you in trouble sometimes.
Yeah, but it also looks like COVID can get you in trouble. Somehow Rick Rosner got COVID again.
He said that he was doing travels and that he was in a public environment. I know that he mentioned that. I think it was either Friday or Thursday, and whatever the public environment was, the other person was basically sneezing on him and getting sick with him. So it was something that was he got in that sense.
Yeah. So COVID is still alive and well. We'll probably have to discuss that on the medical show. This week we're going to be discussing polio because the Physicians for Informed Consent, which I think is a very misleading organization, keeps berating vaccines such as the polio vaccine, which is kind of a tried and true vaccine for years to keep people from basically out of the hospital and out of death's door. And they're just against all forms of vaccine. It seems to me that that organization, I don't know what you do about it. I don't.
We have somebody.
You have the right to free speech, but do you have the right to mislead? I guess that's the question.
Speaking of free speech, we did lose a major journalist, and this was 2.5 weeks ago and everything. And I was just wondering if you ever had the pleasure, because you mentioned your, I think it was your cousin, having worked with certain presidents as well. But David Gergen was a political analyst for CNN and PBS, and he passed away on July 10th at 83. He was actually born and raised right here in Durham, North Carolina, where I am. I was educated at Yale and Harvard and served in the Navy for more than 3 years. But his contracts there got him a job writing in President Nixon's administration, which would become the first of 4 presidents he served. He went on to advise President Gerald Ford, Ronald Reagan, and Bill Clinton in different capacities, making Gergen the rare cross-party advisor. He was also a successful author, writing about his White House duties in the best-selling 2000 book, Eyewitness to Power, The Essence of Leadership, Nixon to Clinton. And more recently, he wrote Hearts Touched with Fire, How Great Leaders Are Made. So he ventured into journalism in 1978 when he became managing editor of Public Opinion. But I just wondered if you ever had the pleasure of your David Saxby, I think he was your cousin, and everything, ever had the pleasure of working with Gergen.
Yeah, well, it was Bill Saxby, but if he was around during the Nixon administration, Bill was the Attorney General of the United States. Dr. Sharif, well, my second cousin, was the Attorney General of the United States under Nixon and Ford. His name was Bill Saxby, and he was a lawyer out of Ohio. And then we got into politics. This is how you become Attorney General of the U.S. You go into politics, and then you get noticed, and then all of a sudden you became the Attorney General of the United States. I mean, it's just weird how it works. And now I have my place in Spain. My next place will be here in Washington, D.C. Well, when you come to visit Dr. Sharif. It's going to take a while, but I've been looking for.
Yeah, you're going to go visit Dr. Sharif. Hey, when are we going to get our? Because the other thing that's we're talking about sports. The other thing that's very popular on television has been popular for years, and they did lose one of the greats in that field as well. But when are we going to start having some televangelical shows and everything like that? I'm not, like I said, I consider myself more spiritual than religious, but I do know that those make a whole host of money and everything like that. And Jimmy Swaggart was a master of that, and he passed away this year as well. So when are we going to start having some religious services? Maybe we'll have some services even from some mosque and everything like that, so that would even be strictly Christian.
That part I really don't know. I can't opine on that because we've never had one of those shows. But we are running out of time, so we do want to thank Mark Lee, his producer at the Pod TV Network. Dr. Sharif is also producer at the Pod TV Network. We're missing Rick Rosner because he has COVID, but we should see everybody back next week on the media show on the Pod TV Network, and hopefully we'll have some new information for you. But until then, stay safe. We'll see. Wait, timeshare's coming right now. Mark, are you taking care of the timeshare people?
I'm going to go check on her right now.
Okay, let's take care of timeshares. It's coming up on Pod TV Network next on our station. So we'll see you then. Bye-bye.